Hi, hello. I'm Robert Lippok from Berlin. I'm born in Berlin, still live there, might die there. Let's see how things are going. I'm very pleased to be here at Woods. Thank you very much for hosting this whole event. I'm also thankful for hosq. I talk about my approach of working, like where I come from, where I am at the moment. I will jump from the past to the future to the present, and it will be like a sometimes a wild journey. Um, and I start with my band Ornament und Verbrechen, just to know just to let you know where I'm from, where I'm based, where my thoughts come from. As I said, I'm from Berlin. I'm from East Berlin. East Berlin I grew up in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. In the 80s, I was a teenager. I started to be interested in sound and especially in like early industrial bands like Throbbing Gristle and Psychic TV. They're really like, they were mind blowing to me. So I thought like, if they can do it, I can do it too. I just show you a bit of my neighborhood. That's how Berlin looked. I really liked the look. As a teenager, this was a perfect surrounding for dreams, imagination, being like melancholic, depressed, what you do when you're a teenager. Of course, I was a punk rocker. That meant the police was always around. I was like in prison. The not for a night. The police came to my house. My band was illegal. My band called Ornament und Verbrechen, Ornament and Crime, and we played in because we were illegal. We played in different places. Uh, for strange reasons, the Protestantic Church was um, very much on the side of punk rock. I think the idea was that they were very much into hippies and peace movement, and the early punk rockers were hanging out with the hippies. So the Protestantic Church thought they might be okay, those guys, even if they look strange. And so we played in churches. There was a regular place in a church in Berlin where punk rockers could like meet like every week. Um, we made like shows there. Uh, we organized the shows ourselves. It was often difficult to end the show because the police was coming, taking all the passports, and taking some people. Sometimes even people had to go to prison for years because they had the wrong lyrics, like criticizing the state. And this is like it's it was like a hub in the GDR. The scene was very small but very active. Poets and musicians and painters were all together and were supporting each other. Yeah, this is how it looked, all black and white. Shortly, my instrumentarium, just to let you know where I started. I was always interested in electronic music, but of course, in the East in the 80s, there was not so much electronic around. We had a East German drum machine, the first one, which my father gave to us because he got it from his company. We made drums ourselves. There is like it's not a duduk, but it's like a clarinet with like a rubber tube. Of course, like loads of people in the electronic music scene, we had like sine wave oscillators. This is a saxophone made out of a motorcycle exhaust. I might die of cancer because it was so inside. Of course, it was so dirty. I couldn't really clean it, but let's see. I'm still here and talking to you. My band Ornament Verbrechen. This is a concert at the Villa Massimo. I was always into folk, maybe because when I grew up in East Germany, there was a lot of folk with like all this coal heating and all this. So fog machines stay with me, and I use them on stage. Sometimes I have a small one, sometimes I have big ones. And here we inhaling the fog, enjoying it very much. To Rococo Road was a band I formed with my brother and Stefan Schneider in 1995, but before there was the band, there was an exhibition, and this is part of the exhibition. I was using dub plates and drills, and the drills were moved by a program which was operated by an old Atari computer, and the drills could, of course, like change the speed and make the sound of the dub plates very rough. In the way how vinyl is created, dub plates are like the first master, like the first vinyl master, you could say. The thing is, they are made out of copper or acetate, and this material is very soft. So when it gets played a few times, it gets very like crackly. And I always like to work with the material, not only with like the musical content, but also with the uh, with the material where the music is on. So this is how it sounds. Yeah, you get it. You get the picture. Was the sound only from one dub plate. There were three altogether, like overlapping. My studio in Berlin. This is the place. I work at home. I do everything I do, like stage design, costume design, preparing exhibitions, producing music. I do always in one space. I've just two speakers, a laptop, a mixer, and some analog devices. This is a special one. It's made for. It's not a synthesizer, but it's a bit similar to a modular synthesizer. It's made for testing hearing and for understanding uh, your listening and your voice and your how listening gets created in the brain. So they're like there's a book with experiments, so you can try to find out where are the borders of like not listening anymore and listening. You have like the basic functions of sine waves and filters, but you can't play it. It's just it's a machine for research, but I like it because it has a very special approach. Of course, I play live. When I play live, I have like different sets. Some are very ambient, some are more dancey. But my music is on a threshold, on the border. Sometimes when I play in a gallery, people think it's like arty shit. When I play the same music in Berghain, people dance to it. So I find it very interesting sometimes where you put your music. Sometimes it's just a question of levels of bass, and then people like think, okay, this is actually super groovy, so let's dance to it. I work a lot with Lucas Gutierrez together. He's a good friend and a visual artist from Argentina. This is a typical Robert Lippok setup. My setups always change because I love to try new things. I love to try new instruments. I sometimes when I perform, I like to like be connected to the space. So I do long sound checks. I go around the house and collect things. And here I collected these like wooden things. This is actually from the conservatory in Yerevan, a show I played with Heike Roy, like our first presentation of glacier music. This is just a picture of a show in Funkhaus, a very prestigious place, old. There was a radio station in the GDR, and they have the best sounding uh, space for orchestra. The space is like it's lifted and it's like hanging in the building, so it's very insulated from outside sounds. It get now they do like shows there, and they have a bar and things. But in the old days, it was like strictly radio plays and recording string quartets and stuff. And because I want to be always connected, and I always like love fog machines, I sometimes use fog machines as a sound source. So here you can see like the ordinary, like in every techno club, you have like tons of those machines, and I put a cheap mic which died shortly after I used it in front of the fog machine, and of course you get this like super nice exactly this sound like, but it's synced with the appearance of the fog, so it has a very strong impact. It's a very simple effect. It's not my idea. I stole it from a light designer from a dance company I worked. I asked if I can use this, and he said, "Yeah, it's open source. You can do what you like." This is Lucas Guterres preparing visuals. Sometimes we work with ancient technology. This is Lemur, like the first touch controller. Or the first commercial touch controller which you could actually buy. The Module 8 is software he likes, but it's a hub for Unity and other for Blender and other video software. This is how we look. This is another setup from me. Here you can see the listening station in action. That was actually a live performance, like techno improvisation together with Dasha Rush, Russian techno star and super nice person. I always have to. Didn't write anything down today. I'm a bit shocked. Maybe I will forget half of the presentation. I usually do like little drawings of the visuals on the right side. There are like the numbers of the different visuals I use for the show, and so I don't forget everything. Because I grew up in the East, and there were not many instruments, but there was a very liveful scene. It was very common to give like instruments to friends. There was one violin player from an orchestra, and he could go to West Germany, which we couldn't, and he brought a Korg MS-20 with him, and he gave it to us, and we had it for 2 days, and then we made a record with it, and then we gave it back. So it was for me, it's very common not to own instruments. I have some instruments, I buy instruments, I sell instruments, but for me, it's not very important to have a deep relationship to an instrument for a long time. Somehow, I love the idea to have like something brand new, which I'm not so familiar with. That's maybe a general approach to my process, that I like to jump into things which I never done before, or which are not so safe, because I like risky things somehow. And because I like synthesizers, and I had the opportunity to go to the electronic studio in Belgrade, I had the chance to work with a Synthi 100. It's like the my favorite synthesizer in the world. And I thought, should I produce something, or what should I do when I was there? And I liked the idea just to collect raw material of the machine, and even not to tune it. So I was like, for the first 5 days, I was just listening to the machine, just switching on the oscillators and see how they operate together. Um, the filters are self-oscillating, so you can have like even more oscillators, and the sound is just very gripping, especially the square wave. The square wave is amazing when you go down. It's like really starting to create a rhythm, but in a very profound way. There's another picture. The beautiful thing about this studio is just one. It just has one instrument. It's just the Synthi 100. There are 4 speakers in there, but nothing else. And you have, of course, the famous touchpad, or not touchpad, like the patch pad, where you can like make connections. That was one experiment, just having a short sequence, having the oscillators triggered by the sequencer, and I have the recordings. I haven't done anything with it, because for me it was more about like halfly understanding the system, and like listening and being in the space, and like have a slow, careful approach to what this machine might be. We go back to Berlin. I made a sound installation called What is Dance? It's based on a opera, The Fairy Queen by Henry Purcell. I was interested in to understand, because the opera was made in like the early days of capitalism. So there it started to, they used like women ballet for basically for selling tickets, because in those days it was already a big competition between opera houses, and I wanted to understand what this dance is, how this dance is used, and what is it about, and to find the like the basic structure of the movements. So I created like this machinery which has like two rotating fairies, you might say, and they were interpreting some of the dances of the opera, of course, redesigned by me. And what I said before, that I always like to collect things. This is like a piece of a palm tree I found in Colombia, I think, and brought to Berlin. And there's like a drum machine connected to it. Another picture, there's like a wooden stick. And I like to work with spaces, to understand how the sound of a space is. And I was setting up the exhibition, and we had just some Genelec speakers. You see them on the floor, left and right. And I was putting them up, and the curator came, Carsten Seifert. He's like one of the most important curators for sound art in Germany, and he said, like, Robert, this sounds shit. It's not good. And I said, like, what? Yeah, but that's my work, you know. It's like, what? can I do? And he's super rough. He's like, when he works with artists, he's like very, very direct. I like that. I think in work, politeness is sometimes difficult because you think like this person maybe thinks something but doesn't say something, but he's like super straight. So he said like, no, we have to think about something. And what the solution for the bad sound was to make the sound even worse. Yeah, I mean, by turning the speakers to the walls, so you had only like the reflections of the walls, and that uh, turned out to be very very helpful for the whole sonic situation. This is like a close-up from the mechanical side of the installation. They're like little robot drum things playing wood pieces and cymbals and other devices. And there's something coming here. Yeah, those things were not amplified. They were in this big hall, and I'm always try to understand how a space sounds, and I do a lot of testing. I don't do too much measuring, but I do a lot of testing with speakers. Sometimes you have spontaneous results, as I just said with the curator Carsten Seifert, but sometimes because I don't have my own studio, I spend a lot of time in the gallery and use this as my studio space, and try to understand how the acoustics are and how the listener will experience the installation. We jump now back in time to 1929, 1930. There's my band Rococo Rot was asked to do a remix of the first ever recorded radio play by Walter Ruttmann. He was a experimental filmmaker, but started to do radio plays. Maybe you know the film Berlin Symphonie einer Großstadt, Berlin Symphony of a City. That's very famous. It's still played in countries all over the world. And but he started to be interested in radio plays, and in the 20s, you had no possibility to record radio plays because there was no technical device. Um, Tape machines were not invented. Wire recordings was not invented. You could record it on vinyl, on shellac, but people didn't do it. And what he did, he used film tone. He built his own device Triagon Tonfilm machine to actually go around the city and understand how Berlin sounds. And he had this two like wagons with wheels, and he was walking in Berlin and recording different situations. The radio play was called Weekend, so it was like tend to show like a weekend in Berlin, how it starts with work, office work, mechanical work, and people having then free time and enjoying the beer gardens and places. And here you can see the audio wave, and that was like the only way he could record the sound. But was not like a workaround. It had also some super interesting good sides, because it was like film tone, and he could actually see the sound wave. He could cut the sound in a very precise way, and that was like in 1930. And sometimes it sounds like almost like industrial sound. It's like very like rhythmical also, and I play you a little bit of it.
Hallo, Fräulein. Bitte Dön auf 4240.
Erlkönig.
Ich verbitte mir das! Bitte.
Wer reitet so spät durch Nacht und Wind? Es ist der...
Fräulein, Sie haben mich ja falsch verbunden. Dön auf 42. 4
4 mal 4 ist...
4. Stock, Spielwaren, Schuhwarenladen, Lebensmittelabteilung.
And you can imagine the speed of the cutting was in those days very revolutionary. And so the Bavarian radio station asked us to make a remix, and we said like, this piece is perfect. We can't make a remix. It doesn't make sense if we put like a beat under it or anything or add anything. So our idea was to use his method and record Berlin in 1998. And we were like walking around the city and try to understand what is how the city sounds now. What is the difference? Where are the streets resonating differently? What are the vocals? Are the voices? Has German changed? The German language changed a lot, even the tone. I think it might be same here in Armenia. So we were like, for a few days, we were walking around in Berlin, and I just show you a short example.
Straighter.
Hallo?
Jetzt!
Okay.
Yeah, and the picture you can see, that's the Reichstag in 1998. And I think if you think further, it would be very interesting to understand how the city now sounds in 2025, because you have some things that similar, like church bells and trains, S-Bahn and all this kind of stuff. But you have all these like new electric cars, the phones sound different. I mean, you heard here a fax machine. Nobody is using a fax machine anymore. So the sonic uh, the sonic environment in Berlin also changed quite a bit. You have all these like electrical, uh, how do you call it, the roller, where you like, where like you always see like two teenagers on those, or maybe three teenagers. So they have a different sound. So it's I actually would like to make a new version of it and to see how Berlin sounds now. Because people know I'm like doing all kinds of different things. I get invited to like very diverse projects. That was a project. I had a residency at the class of Olafur Eliasson in Berlin, and he he made always trips with his class to China and to South America. And when I was joining, they were making a trip to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and the idea was to make a group exhibition on a big field, and the field was in the middle of the city. It was the former summer residency of Kaiser Haile Selassie, and then it got used as a horse places for horse race, and it's now it's like empty, but a big religious fests are held there. So sometimes you have like thousands and thousands, 100,000 of people like celebrating Easter and other Christian fests. I was thinking like, what can I do? Of course, I was like walking in the city and listening to the city, and of course, Addis Ababa sounds totally different. But I was thinking like, if I do like a installation and show the people um, like the sound of the city, they say like that's the sound of our city. And my idea was to uh, get in conversation with the people, and I was starting to collect tapes, because there was a big tape scene in the 80s and 70s in Addis Ababa, and I was like walking around and buying tapes, religious music like pop songs and all kinds of music, and I was trying to build like a listening station where people could come and drink tea and listen to music and talk about it. And I was looking around, how could I, how could this look, and what could it be? And I found the wood of eucalyptus. This is like the material for scaffolding naturally in Addis, like in the traditional way. Now, of course, they use like steel and stuff, but many buildings you still see a scaffolding made out of eucalyptus. And I made a very simple structure where you had like just a little place to sit and to enjoy, and I had like a little 80s tape player and a small sound system, and I was having this like gathering. We had like events there. You can see like a sound system there. So at some times there were like hundreds of people coming, even in the daytime, and they were saying like, "Oh, this is like very interesting. We haven't heard these music for a long time." And then they started not talking to me, but talking to each other about the music and their experience. And so I was quite happy with the outcome. And you see, like there were some lights and some like connections and some electrical wires. And in those days, I was not really thinking about sustainability, but I was thinking like it would be a shame if you throw everything away. So it was not difficult to find people who take everything. So in like one day, everything was dismantled and found a new home. Inspiration comes from many sources. A big inspiration for me when it comes to thinking, but also like thinking about space and thinking about thinking and thinking about like imagination and like virtual spaces and virtual sounds is Yoko Ono, her book Grapefruit. If you can, if you find it, I mean, it's still in print. It's very yeah, it's amazing. Has a introduction by John Lennon. He wrote, I think it's the best book I ever burned. So, but that's not fair because it's like it's super beautiful. It has drawings of her and it has like instruction for performances. And there are two. Yeah. And yeah, if you imagine sounds, you can't share them. You can talk about it. You produce them in your soul, in your brain, but there are they're with you. You can maybe describe them, or you make a drawing, or you make a book out of it, but you can't really share it. But like making like a collective improvisation with those texts uh, and talk about it later. I think it was for my approach and for my band very important, and we we performed many uh, of her text, of her introduction. So it's like it's very wide, very. She has a bright mind, and what I like that her the framework behind it is super intellectual, but she has a ability to like narrow it down to very simple ideas, simple thoughts, beautiful gestures. Um, I was invited to an exhibition about techno music. It's run by the Goethe Institute, and I was thinking, what is techno? What is techno now? What was techno in the 90s? And in the 90s, it was a lot about like the opposite from boiler room kind of thing. So the DJ was not important. Sometimes the DJ was invisible. People didn't dance to in front or to like facing the DJ. People like danced all over. In Tresor in the 90s, there was so much fog that you couldn't see the DJ anyway. So I was thinking like I wanted to use this like early Detroit, Berlin approach of like taking uh, uh, taking the person out, but bringing the machines in. And I created a like a visual and sound piece. Here it's in the creation. And what I did is as sound sources, I bought some modules from Döpfer, that's a German company, and I worked only with sounds which are for triggering modules. So I used only gate sounds for the rhythms, and I used square waves again for creating not melodies but sonic interventions. Um, because I'm interested in spaces and resonances of spaces, I was looking how can I make a space inside a space, and I was then looking at the theory of Helmholtz-Resonatoren, and I went to a workshop, a glass workshop, and asked them to build me um, some glass bulbs. Sometimes I use them as resonators. I put like microphones inside, and they're boosting a certain frequency. Sometimes they, when I have a speaker inside, they boost also a frequency, but you can hear it from the opening of the glass. There's no glass involved, but this is like the sound system was working. Yeah, Helmholtz resonators were invented in the 19th century to understand how speech is created, like to understand that the human voice is made out of different or of many levels of sine waves. So you can, depending on the size and the length of the opening, you can create a certain resonance. This finding is very much in use in our days. For example, in all these nice sport cars you see here on the street, they have like Helmholtz resonators inside the system to either boost the exhaust to make the sound more strong in the car, or to take certain frequencies out that it's not so sounding not so strong. This is like the same setup, but with my version of a Helmholtz resonator. Yeah, and when the microphone or the camera got closer to the glass bulb, you could hear like the early reflections and the frequencies bouncing inside the glass bulb. I was like then exploring this further. This is a machine I made for an exhibition for my former label Rasta. Same principle. You can see like very simple switches and just like clock dividers. I done a lot with clock dividers. The sounds again are just gate signals, but I used here the glass body as a boost for a certain frequency. I put a microphone in, and then I had like a input into the modular system, so the spectator or the people who came and talked maybe or screamed or laughed with the impulse, they changed the rhythm and changed the speed of the beats. And this is a workshop where this glass body was built because I measure sometimes the size of the bodies, but not all the time. I'm here. I was not measuring it, but I was saying like make it as big as possible. And this glass body is very heavy because the glass is quite thick. So it was like quite a challenge for the workshop to blow it. And again, white noises all around me. So of course, this was a beautiful sound too. Here's more resonators. This is the installation in the building. here, because I'm interested in material and the different impacts they have in spaces. I was working with copper plates and covered with rubber, and I used a lot of like long wooden sticks to create a sort of like snare drum sound with a help of like drum devices from Polish company Polyend. And there's no sequencer involved. It's just square wave LFOs triggering other LFOs, sine wave LFOs triggering the square wave LFOs. It's like an open system, and again you have the glass bulb. I was then developing this glass body thing further, and I started to build them also virtually, as you can see on the left side. Yeah, this is like a video version of the installation. I'm jumping back to architecture. This is the remains of a former factory for graphite. Was used in like power plants. One of the most famous, best architects in Germany, Arno Brandelhuber, he's like a neo-brutalist. He had the fabulous idea to put the office studio on the top floor of the tower. I think his company was not very happy, but he's like a very strong person. So he said, like, we moved to Lichtenberg, which is quite far out, maybe the same as Woods here from Berlin city center. And he invited Lucas and me to have a look at the building. It's very raw, but he left it like this. He didn't do any changes from the outside. But what he did before he renovated it, he used a drone to fly into the building and to scan all the spaces, all the empty halls, and you can see this is the places where the graphite was stored, and they're like he left them empty, so they're kind of resonant spaces with no use. Here's another view on it, and Lucas and I we used the data and we made a short video piece out of it, and here's a little trailer. and all the little pixels you could see that were like the scanning points of the laser of the drone flying in, and like working on a real building, but in like in a virtual way, made Lucas and me think that we want to explore like possibilities of space in a more deep way, and we created like a full dome performance called non-phase, and this is about mathematical spaces which can't exist in the real world, but of course can exist in mathematics, and also as translated then into virtual bodies, virtual rooms, virtual walls, virtual spaces, a space inside a space, and so on. Just a trailer. Sometimes I boost things. Sometimes I often stand somewhere and listen. I had a residency in Colombia, and it was on the seaside, close to a rainforest. And I was, of course, as a Berliner, I was curious how a rainforest sounds. And I went into the rainforest by myself. I had a plastic chair with me because I thought I spent maybe a bit of time there. And when I went to in the rainforest with my beautiful recording device, the rainforest kept silent. There was no wind, there was no animal, there was no nothing. And I was like, try to record something, and like said like, what's going on? What is happening? And I thought, okay, the rainforest doesn't want to perform for Robert Lippok. That's fair enough. I understand. Maybe I would do the same. And then I had the idea. I just want to sit there and just understand the situation. So I was with my plastic chair, then sitting for like 4 hours, just on one spot, just doing nothing, just watching the light changing a bit and having a bit of a breeze and stuff. And afterwards, I felt like the longing of going deeper into the rainforest, like deeper and deeper. Something called me, you can say. But I thought like, okay, don't do it because it's the rainforest and it's Colombia and you might get lost. So I went out, and there was like a party the next day, and I told this a person at a party, and said like I felt really just like the rainforest wanted to like draw me in. I couldn't almost resist. He laughed and said like, yeah, everybody says that, everybody feels that. That's what the special nature does to you. So it's not, I was not experiencing something like unique, but something when you are in this like strong surrounding, you experience. And so from that was like in like 10 years ago. From that time on, I was like always like spend even more time at the location. And the next installation was a commissioned work for the Venice Biennale last year. And it was not at the location of the Venice Biennale, but on a little island, like a very remote island. And I was there for days and listening and understanding how the sound is. And I came up with the idea of having like subwoofers in the ground, like digging them into the ground so you couldn't barely see them, but you could hear them. And I was listening to all the boats around the island, and I was like recording the frequencies of the diesel engines, and I was putting them into the subwoofers and playing them. Yeah, the higher sounds you hear, I made some like performances, like little sound performances, like throwing metal things and wood pieces in the German pavilion, and I added that to the bass frequencies. The effect, of course, there were boats around the island. The effect was quite astonishing because there was a kind of masking effect I created, so you had the feeling that the outside of the island, the space you were on, and the whole surrounding is like merging. You couldn't really feel, are you on the island, are you outside the island? So it was like shifting your perspective, and I like to create sometimes this kind of distortion of perspective. Yeah, this is a subwoofer. I was like trying to find like the idle top to transmit the bass frequencies. Here are like a setup of all the cables. There were loads of rabbits on the island and mice and rats, so we had to cover all the cables with special special surroundings, so the rabbits didn't eat the cables. This is like these are the first ideas of like the reflectors for the bass frequencies. I worked with a workshop in Nuremberg together, but at the end I decided to make them even smaller and to use a different material, which is like slowly decaying. I jumped shortly to architecture, again to Arno Brandelhuber. He built a house called Kölner Brett. It was made out of 12 modules, as you can see now over there. And he invited our band again to create a soundtrack for the house, because he was invited to an architectural biennale, and he said, like, I don't want to present drawings or architectural model. I want to present your music. So we thought about the building, and we had a look at the building, and then we created for every module we own track, in a very more like in a very pop impressionistic way. ourselves in the production, we had only a few, like 3, 5, and 6 like different layers, and each track had like the length of 3 minutes. This is like the basic structure of the house. This is like the inside and the outside. Arno is always playing with materials. So here on this side you can see a wall which was filled with phosphor. So when a car came by, you could see it glow in the dark. This is another view. He takes elements from the 60s, from like super not fancy buildings in Germany, and combines them in a new way. His idea is always like to build buildings as simple as possible, to create this, a possibility for cheap rents, and make them available for all kinds of people. I don't know if it works out, because it has always to do with the people who invite him, and who are building the house in the end of the day. But this is his approach, and he made some very interesting concepts for cheap housing. If you're familiar with the German techno scene, you could maybe hear uh, a connection to the Cologne techno scene from like the mid '90s. For D-Sound, I just scratch it, because I was just invited for one project by them. It's a very advanced sound system invented by Paul Oman with his team, and you can create virtual spaces. You can like even build a ceiling, like an acoustic ceiling. You can create a space outside the speaker system, and it's like there's a 4D sound system in Berlin at the Funkhaus, and this radio, or from a radio station which I showed, and above there, they're like, this is like a representation of the actual sound system. They're like pillars, and they're like 4 speakers in each pillar. And because of the software behind it, the approach to like space and resonance and size of space is quite unique. You can like build different sizes of spaces, like even having them outside the system, even under the system or above the system. And as I said, you can create even a ceiling, and that was very interesting for me to build like really like a room or a house just with sound, but not in a simple way, but in a very concrete way. You really could like measure the space. Shortly, Archigram, total different approach, is architectural group from the 60s from London. They were more like experimental, futuristic pop art. Um, I really liked the joyful approach to architecture. They built like roofs which could fly. They built like cities which could move. To like, they were thinking like the city like uses the resources, and then it's like moving to a different place. Of course, this is not sustainable at all. But there are all kinds of ideas, like having your own like inflatable home with you, and living in there. I quite like this this drawing. It's like how a city is changing from the top, like a typical UK city from the 60s, and then slowly Archigram is taking over, and it's it's like ending in this like merged nature to architecture. I was especially interested in the concept of plug-in city, because the idea is that you can build a city, but you can like dismantle the city very fast. Uh, that you don't have to demolish buildings, just take off different modules, maybe taking off a street, building a theater instead, and doing that very fast and very easy with cranes and metal things. I created over this idea, I created a workshop where I invited musicians on every level from all kinds of backgrounds to create a sonic interpretation of the plug-in city. Yeah, I really like that they had like a playful idea of a city, because uh, basically I think what for me is important is to think that another world is possible, that there is like that the future is not predicted. I see there's too much money coming into Berlin. Berlin is changing a lot. I see there's too much money coming in Yerevan. I see loads of richness there. I see SUVs. I see like the streets are almost bursting. I had like 2 car accidents while I was here, so it's like uh, it's very like a intense, like not a good development. But I grew up with like a Christian Catholic background, but more from uh, uh, influenced by Pier Paolo Pasolini, his film about Jesus, uh, and about like this like communist part of Christianity, which was strong in the 60s, but not anymore so much. So my basic approach is like to try to understand or try to move that like things are possible to change. That I mean, we live in very tough times, and you see all these news. Uh, but on all this bad news, there is a big layer of good news, of people who do things, who people who create good things, people who do sustainable things, people do something for the nature. So I'm I'm not sure if I'm positive or not, but I try to understand where the good side is and where the good developments are. That's some pictures uh, of the workshop. I'm closing with the latest project, Darmstädter Ferienkurse für neue Musik. It's a very prestigious festival in Germany, in like kind of south of Germany. Karl-Heinz Stockhausen was there teaching. Xenakis was there teaching and performing, and I'm invited this year to curate a show in the Kunsthalle. It's a place. Darmstadt, as many other cities in Germany, was destroyed for a good reason, because there were all these Nazis around in the 30s and 40s. So the city got bombed into pieces, and the Kunsthalle was totally destroyed. They built a new Kunsthalle, which has a typical 50s West German approach. Interesting is that the architect was a former Nazi architect, which turned into like a modernist architect quite fast after the Second World War. So it's a super modernist building, and you have like this openness, and you have like all this light, and you have like the materials you needed in or wanted in those days, but there's still a feeling uh, of hierarchy in the building. There's like this big room in the middle, and it's like this is where like the most important art pieces are shown, and this is like the place where the important things are happening. And we as an artist group, we were discussing what to do, and This is like the map of the building, and we were thinking like we want to keep this the main building empty and have it like a performance space, like an open space, like a listening space, and to just have like little interventions in there from time to time. So we were thinking, how could our sound art exhibition look or sound? And we wanted to create something different to a lot of sound installations where the sounds are disturbing each other, or you just go from one piece to another, and there's not really a connections to the pieces. This is the artist group: Nicole Uyer, Svetlana Maras, Robert Lippok, Jana Immert, Anushka Shedetze, and Niall Kurting. And at the moment, we are planning the exhibition. And what we came up with is we have like an open system. So we have like different sound systems which are movable, not only in the space, but also in the heights. I came up with the idea to have like these light stands where you can like change the height by like using the handles. And Svetlana came up with that will be a device which can be moved around the Kunsthalle with a very complex and very fragile system of a mix of like tape loops and modular synthesizers. This is my machine, and I have a subwoofer which is also movable with batteries, and you can. Nicole is using membranes to catch the sound, like her voice or sounds from spectators, visitors. You are invited to sing along or sing inside. That's like a little view of the backspace.
So basically, I was trying this yesterday.
Another view on Svetlana's piece. So I asked the artist, and they all said yes immediately. And we are very lucky that we had a long process, or we had a time to prepare the exhibition for over a year now. And the setup is on the 10th of July, and we have like almost 10 days to adjust the sounds and to create together like a composition, or to create together a piece. And what it makes it for me interesting is also that we don't keep the borders, or we don't keep the aura of the art pieces. For example, Nicole's piece with the membranes, they are movable and they can move very close to another sound art piece. That is something you would not do in any case in any sound installation. But because our system is so open, we can do that. And Svetlana's, Nicole's membranes are recording like the sounds from the other installations, but also the sounds of the surrounding. And we will see how it works. We will find a partitur, like a graphical score where the pieces will go, where they move. We have like people who will like take care of that. Niall is he looked at the archive of the festival, and there are all these photos of concerts people listening. Some sit on the floor. Some like have a laptop or iPad like you. No, not in those days they didn't have it. But you see all these people in different gestures. So Niall is inviting performers who recreate the gestures of a person who listened to the Karl-Heinz Stockhausen piece in 86, for example. So this will be another intervention in the spaces. So this is from my side. For like this is like the first layer of the night tonight. Thank you that you were listening to me, and there will be maybe questions. There will be maybe answers after a little changeover. I will play. I wouldn't call it a concert. Maybe it's like it's a gesture. I will play some sounds which were important to me during the process of doing all these art pieces, and yeah, and I hope you enjoy it. And there will be like a little speech by you, and thank you.
I was wondering if you can explain about your inspiration or your first ideas for making this composition.
In the process of creating concerts and finding the ability to perform live, because I don't have a proper studio. I try a lot out in the sound checks. So the sound check is becoming like a place where I also compose. Sometimes when I perform live, I bring completely new tracks in. I, I very quickly get inspired. It's like I hear something and then I want to recreate it, or I listen to something in the radio. So when I play live and I play at festivals, I hear other musicians playing. I always get ideas, and I want to incorporate this. And through the years, maybe because I come from punk rock, but that was like fading out, but it came somehow back in. I had uh, uh, like the strong lust or the strong interest in distortion, because it's not only distorting the sound, but in certain frequencies it's
Exactly.
shaking your inner ear.
Exactly.
So it's you become like a listener, but you become also an instrument. So parts of your system is resonating to the music, to the frequencies. So I think I'm generally interested in like shifting borders uh, between spaces, and I also like feedback systems, and I, I like mistakes, and I like feedback in special, because I was talking to a techno DJ, or like house techno DJ from Germany. His name is Move D, and he told me about, he's a pure vinyl DJ, and he was telling me like in the old days they used this feedback of turntables. I mean, know it when you play in a club vinyl, when the system is not adjusted right, or the players are not on a soft ground or something, or they're not insulated from the vibration, they start to feedback. And in the old days, in like the small techno clubs, they used this as a feature. They were like pushing slowly these frequencies, these bass frequencies, to make the space and the resonance of the space interacting with the music. The technology just called it compression. Of course, it's not a compression. It's like a feedback distortion needle open system. But I found this very inspiring. So for some of the installations you saw, um, I used that system, and this here was not open. It was some sounds I created, some field recordings, some things people gave to me, but it was still very open. I had the idea of certain sounds I wanted to use, and I knew the beginning, but I didn't know the end. That was for a long time. Even when I played in clubs like Berghain, I tried to make this challenge for me, like having a solid set for 30 minutes and then don't knowing where to go from there. So it was for me always like fun and interesting, and also risky to to go in the unknown, if
Okay.
that helps.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hi. Oh, wow. Thanks a lot for coming and for the lecture, very inspiring, and for the performance. And can you please elaborate on your current setup, like tonight? What were you using? Only MacBook, or
What
drum machine, or anything else?
I'm often I use for like drum sounds. I had some drum sounds which came in the beginning, but then I decided not to have them. There are cut sine waves, so it's just a sine wave cut on a odd position, so you get this like this artifact, this percussive sound. I'm using like a new synthesizer from Poly, and it's called Zünd. It has different engines in there. It's one of my favorite engines in general. Is like virtual acoustic, so you can build your own. Virtually, you can build your own instrument. You can have like the body of a drum, and you can have the body of a drum attached to a mouthpiece from a flute. So you can play a lot around with materials and again with spaces. It is using granular synthesis, which is very popular. Everything you send to granular synthesis sounds beautiful, so it's like very known in the electronic scene. I use some of the effects are old plugins from GRM. That's the institute in Paris where Pierre Schaeffer and Henry Schaeffer worked, like the inventors of Musik Konkret. This institute is still there. It's like next to the Centre Pompidou. And what else? I have an iPad, but at the moment it's just a controller. There's Touch OSC on it, and I control Ableton with it. Performing with a laptop was very popular in like when laptops came up in the 90s and early 2000s. Then everybody was like, "Oh no, this is like so a person on a laptop." It's like I never felt this because all my heroes are like laptop artists like Christian Fanisch. Okay, he plays the guitar, but his main instrument is Max MSP on a computer. Or Peter Rehberger from Mego, like in those days, completely like laptop artist. And then modular synthesis came up, and everybody needed a modular when to play live. And I saw like people being disgusted when they saw my setup, because for a while I was using a Mac Mini, not even a sound card, like plugging in the system directly with a mini jack, having like a second-hand monitor, and like these modular guys, they were like, "What is he doing? Why is he even like? Is he not ashamed that he's using a computer?" I was in like half a year ago. I was in Tbilisi, and there was a big party going on with loads of kids, like your age and younger. And there was a young lady. She was like 19 or something, and she played a Max MSP patch. She was sitting there. She was not moving at all. She was just very serious with glasses, long hair. She was like, and the music was amazing, and I was so happy. I was like, "Oh yeah, laptops are back in something. They're back in the scene." So I love the laptop. When I sit in front of Ableton or other software, this draws me very quickly in. This is I have a very like direct focus when I work with a computer. I had a modular system, but for me, it's I understood it's not my way of working.
Thank you. Thank you.
I joined you later, and then maybe you talked about it, or maybe this is off topic. While you were talking about the soundscape of Berlin, I started thinking about the soundscape of Yerevan. And you, as a foreigner, maybe you have more like fresh ear, and then also you have like a trained professional ear. How would you describe the soundscape of Yerevan? Does it remind you to another like soundscape of another city? I don't know. And it would be.
I never heard so many car crashes in one day. There were minor car crashes, so you could hear the metal, like a dent in the metal, or you could hear like a plastic piece falling off. Very special sounds, very beautiful sounds. I rarely hear them in Berlin. Here, the driving, I think it's the city at the moment is a lot about cars, and people try to navigate through the city. And also, like in Germany, the cars get bigger and bigger. And I have not only the feeling sonically, I'm like overwhelmed by traffic sounds. When I stand in a street, and I don't see the street because the SUV is like, I'm like 1 meter 80, and the SUV is like bigger than me. I feel almost like offended by those cars, and this is something I saw in the first place. But when you go on the side streets and you listen carefully, you hear a lot different sounds, and I think due to like the traditional architecture, building houses out of these like almost square stones, the city in general has a very soft sound. It's not so aggressively echoing. There's not so much like high frequencies bouncing around. I have the feeling in like the smaller streets, and when it's like in the nighttime, it has a very gentle sound. And of course, there are many sounds I don't know. There's a language I'm not so familiar with. There are birds I don't know. There was one like, I don't know which one it was, but I never heard it before. So they're like these minor differences, but like the main thing, I would say that the overall feeling is like this softness of it, plus the aggressive madness of the traffic.